Hi everyone, it's Fiona Edgar here, and this is a video about the upcoming full moon, which happens tonight actually. So it's a bit of a difficult one with some really good benefits if we use our strength and resilience. So let me go into that further. The full moon is happening at 16 degrees of Aries. Aries is the sign of the warrior. So the warrior archetype, they just get stuff done. They don't need to rely on other people. So in this full moon chart, the sun is conjunct Venus. Now, that is significant. It adds some more pleasant energies to this full moon, which is really the ending of a cycle. So, this full moon actually is the last normal lunation that we're going to have before eclipse season. So, you're starting to see clues over the next few weeks about what your eclipse season is going to be like, which of course can dominate the next 6 months or potentially even the rest of your life. So it's a big deal. Now, a full moon really is just the end of a cycle, the start of a new one. Everyone freaks when you start talking about endings, but life is full of endings. It's just the end of one phase and on into the next one. So the full moon is actually conjunct Chiron. Now, this is where we may be experiencing some trauma from the past, some unhealed wounds that are coming up again. But the good thing about this is there's a really good aspect to Saturn, a sextile, which is a positive aspect in astrology. So if we take this on the chin, if you find inner strength from somewhere, resilience, there is the chance that you can make something really good out of this full moon. It does affect, in particular, money, your love life, your finances, your self-esteem, and your inner strength. So let's talk about Chiron for a second. Chiron is one of my favorite objects in the chart. So in the mythology, Chiron was a centaur and he was abandoned by his mother, okay, because he looked, well, he was a centaur, he was half beast, semi-divine, and the god Apollo took pity upon Pearl Chiron and he adopted him, along with his sister Artemis. So Chiron was a bit of a prodigy. They taught Chiron everything that they knew, the gods of wisdom, astrology, natural medicine, natural healing, astronomy, all of the occult sciences, and stuff like music, poetry, and writing as well. So Chiron was an exceptional student, and he became a teacher for others. Chiron is also the archetype of the teacher. If you have it very strong in your own chart, that's kind of what you were born to do, is to teach others. But of course, you must make sense of your own wounds before you can become a teacher. Okay, so this full moon is going to flare up some wounds. Okay. Now, it doesn't mean you're in for a super bad time at all. It's giving you a really good opportunity, supported by the wisdom and stability of Saturn, to get rid of those wounds once and for all. What is keeping you back? Because remember, Aries people, they don't hold back. They are not fearful. They're brave, courageous, and strong. So this full moon is really going to encourage us all to be a bit like that. Now, because it is the sign of Aries and it is Chiron, you may get a little bit of help from other people, but mostly you're going to be doing it alone, doing it by yourself. This is like an initiation that you're going through with this full moon, okay? So it can be to do with relationships and wounds around those, which of course always start in childhood. For example, someone that was abandoned when they were a child, or they were threatened in some way, or they felt fearful. And because of that, unhealed wounds will play out in your romantic relationships. So you have to see it for what it is. One thing that you shouldn't do is react in the same old way. Okay, don't freak out. Think carefully. Saturn will help you to do that. Whatever this is, you're going to make it through, okay? Because when we get into eclipse season, which is happening at the end of this month, the sign that is involved is Scorpio. Scorpio is also co-ruled by Mars, okay? The traditional ruler, the only rulers that I use, Scorpio people are very Mars-like, but they do it in a different way. Okay, so Scorpio is all about clearing house, becoming powerful, not letting other people dominate you. It's also about transformation, because Scorpio season happens in the time of year, because the Western zodiac is exactly aligned with the seasons, the equinoxes, the solstices. Okay, it is a different zodiac than sidereal astrology, which is based on the constellations. The confusion comes because they both have the same names, but they have very different interpretations here. Okay, so in Scorpio season, that's the time during the year when the leaves were dying from the trees, the vegetation was it was a very desolate and bleak landscape. It's also the time of year when all of the animals were slaughtered. Well, maybe not all of them, but some of the animals were slaughtered to make food for the winter. Okay, so things get slow here. But really, the symbolism of Scorpio is change, the death of something so something new can be created. So the eclipses and this full moon, of course, they're connected that way. Okay, now the full moon sextile Saturn is going to help us a lot, because Saturn is about stability. It's about making mature decisions. You know, a full moon in Aries could potentially be very hot-headed, impulsive, making bad choices because it feels good in the spur of the moment. But Saturn is saying, hang on a second, let's think this through and let's make a wise decision that is based on wisdom and stuff that's going to get us through in the long run. Okay, so with Chiron, you may be feeling wounds about feeling alone, being an outsider, going it alone, having only yourself to rely on. There's always going to be someone that helps, a mentor, a teacher, or someone that can offer you some kind of nugget of wisdom and support. But this can really flare up psychological wounds, emotional and spiritual wounds. So what we have to do is be strong and really rely upon our willpower here, okay? The other big thing to do with this full moon is that Uranus is square Saturn exactly again. Now, they're not going to be exact to the minute again. However, by degree, we are feeling that. So what is Uranus square Saturn? It's really like when it's a lot of tension, tremendous tension, change that is really difficult to deal with. And this is all going on in the world. We can see this with all of the stuff that's going on, you know, the wars, the war against humanity in general, but also stuff about the economy, you know, the gas prices, electricity, and so on. Uranus and Saturn have always been, nearly always, in every kind of financial depression, recession, these guys have always been making a hard aspect to each other. So this time we have the square. Now it's going to start separating on October 23rd, but you're seeing this stuff about the economy, the finances. People are wondering how they're going to heat their homes. I know that in England, people are getting a grant, but over here in Northern Ireland, we don't even have a functioning government. And as far as it looks, we're not really getting any help unless you're on some kind of benefit. But for the people that work with no benefits, we're not getting much. So a tank of oil, we still use oil a lot here in rural Ireland. It costs twice as much as it did last year. Okay, so there's a lot of stress. There's a lot of tension, okay? So what does Aries do when Aries is faced with a difficulty? Okay, now remember the moon in astrology, in someone's birth chart, it will represent partially what they have inherited from their ancestors and their past lives. It tells partially the picture of those. So Aries, moon and Aries people in particular, that's the warrior archetype. They have been involved in a lot of wars. When there's a warrior or a soldier, they don't have time to think things over for a long time. They're impulsive. They make decisions like within seconds, okay? So we have to realize that only ourselves can save us. And I don't mean save us as in we're in the apocalypse. I mean, we could well be, but we have to worry about how are you going to heat your home? How are you going to have hot water and food for your kids and all of that? Okay. So be resourceful, especially with Saturn. Saturn can be extremely resourceful. He will also help you to manage your money. Now, the good thing about this full moon also is it covers about until the 25th of October. That's when we have an eclipse. Okay. So between now and then, Mercury's shadow is going to be over. So your Mercury retrograde story is finally coming to a close. There's going to be more clarity on a situation, especially with the moon in Aries. And Pluto has just gone direct as well. Depending on what it's doing to your own chart, it may be a more difficult time for you or better. If it's applying towards a planet in your birth chart, it's going to bring more challenges up for you. Okay, but Pluto direct in the world is where we see more control. Pluto is the planet of power, but also control. And when it is direct, you will see more control from the government and more restrictions. Okay. So, yeah, a bit of a mixed bag, this one, but there is still a Venusian energy to this because the sun is conjunct Venus, which is a nice aspect. Okay. So you can tap into your Venusian energies. Don't forget to have romance, be creative because creativity is so valuable. And many people are not creative in any way now because we're all glued to our phones. And well, when you're struggling to pay your bills or whatever, it's hard to be creative. But it creates this beauty in your life and a very spiritual energy. And you can create excellent things by using your creativity. Okay. So I am going to go over all of the signs here. Now, I also want you to know that my readings are on sale at the moment, and I am a teacher of astrology, and I have taken reduced my courses just for the next couple of weeks, and then I'm going to stop running it. So if you wanted to be my student next year, I am booked up until then. You could sign up for my course. So go to my website, fionaedgar.com, and you can find out more about that. And you can read my testimonials from former students, former clients, and other people. You can go and read them there. Okay. So basically, not to worry about it. It can be a little bit challenging here with all of this stuff, but you can do it. I mean, we have to really heal our own wounds, okay? Because part of the reason why we are in this mess globally, and it's the world that we live in now is very dark, and partially it's because generational wounds, ancestral wounds, those are not being cleared anymore. One reason is because the death and the funeral rites that we have in the West, except for Hindus, they're not the right thing. So if you want to look at what we should be doing, you can take a look at their rites and how elaborate they are and the purpose for those, because we're not doing anything to clear any ancestral or past life. You know, it's pretty much the same thing. We're not doing anything to clear that trauma. Also, we rely far too much on things like psychology and psychiatry, which of course do help, but they don't get rid of ancestral wounds or karmic blockages or things like that. Okay. So let's go over about what it means for the signs. Please watch your sun sign, your moon, and your rising sign. Okay, now especially the rising sign, it is one of the most important parts of the chart. You will need to know your birth time. And it does have to be right. Even 10 minutes can make it into a different sign. Okay, so if you don't know it, then just listen to your sun and your moon. That will be still a good amount of information for you. If you would like to know your birth time, I am one of the astrologers that does perform birth time rectifications. So you can go to my website to find out about that. So for Aries, Aries rising and Aries moon, the full moon is happening in your first house, okay? So this can be a really significant time for you because you do have Chiron transiting through there anyway. Now, this is all about releasing wounds once and for all that have dogged you since you were a child. Okay, so with Chiron, it can be any wounds, it can be physical, it can be spiritual, mental, family, but it is an ancestral wound. Okay, it's something that has been passed on, but you're getting an opportunity to heal that. The next few weeks may be a little difficult for you, especially in terms of your physical body, because the first house is the physical body. But something is coming to an end here. It could be health issues. It just could be some negative cycle that you've got yourself into. So this can be a powerful time for you and a positive time. Okay, so for Taurus and Taurus rising, the full moon is happening in your 12th house. Now, this is all about subconscious wounds, stuff going on that you're not really aware of, self-sabotage. So you're getting an opportunity to end that. The 12th house is also the memories of the blood, the memories of your ancestral line, which, you know, a lot of those are kind of subconscious. So speak to the gods, speak to your ancestors. The 12th house is the bridge between this physical reality that we live in and the spirit world. So when you're having a lunation in your 12th house, if you think about how bright the full moon is in the sky, that whole area is going to be illuminated for you. Okay. Now, there may be some secrets or things that you were not aware of before that really come to light here. Some of those may be a bit tricky to deal with or wounding, but ultimately you're going to be much better off for it. So for Gemini, the full moon is happening in your 11th house. This can be some kind of change or ending to do with groups that you belong to. The 11th house is about your friends. It's about people that you will choose to hang out with, not because they're your relations, but because you have something in common here with them. So there could be an ending to do with that. There may be some drama because it is the sign of Aries. Okay, so there could be some fireworks, but ultimately it is going to lead to a much greater sense of healing for you in terms of your group identity. So for Cancer people, the full moon is happening in your 10th house. This is going to be some changes connected to your career, your public reputation. It's the end of a cycle. Some Cancers are going to become teachers because, like I say, Chiron is the archetype of the teacher. I am a teacher of astrology and Chiron is strong in my chart. Okay, so if you have wanted to do that, maybe you need to take a course or study or whatever. But it will be the change of a job. Now, if you do end up like leaving your job or, you know, in some cases, like forcibly leaving, it's not on your path anyway. Right? So something more chironic may suit you. The chironic arts are astrology, natural medicine, healing, music, poetry, everything that is beautiful and really lacking in the world. So follow your dreams here and you could make a really good career out of it. Okay, so for Leo, the full moon is happening in your 9th house. So this can be an ending connected to a course that you were taking, some studying. It could be connected to foreign people and travel. The 9th house could also be connected to some legal issues. Okay, but it is an ending here. So endings are positive. If you've been going through a shitty situation for the last few months, you know, an ending is a good thing. Okay, so you may decide to take a course or study. You may decide to travel if you're able to, or go on some adventures. Your beliefs may also change. with a full moon in the ninth house, you're definitely going to be examining those, questioning them, and maybe following some other information that causes you to change your beliefs. So for Virgo folks, the full moon is happening in your eighth house. Now, this can be joint finances, it can be mortgages, loans, credit cards, inheritance, but it's also the house of joint intimacy because Libra is involved here. There could be something to do with relationships, but it really is going to be mostly about finances for you. The eighth house is also about very deep intimacy that you have with another person, a very deep bond. Okay, so that could end, or there may be a change or something else that would do with that. The eighth house is the house of death and transformation. Now, when you have a full moon here, it's highly significant. There could be a lot of intense change. There could be, especially with the Uranus and Saturn square, really difficult changes, some difficult news that's hard to deal with, but ultimately leads to a very profound state of transformation, which most likely is what you needed anyway, because transformation can be hard for Virgos. They like their routines, they like their comfort zones, they like everything in order, so they don't deal with chaos very well. Okay, so Libra, the full moon is happening in your seventh house. This, of course, is the house of relationships. It's also the house of clients. Any one-on-one relationship that you have, a business partner, even an enemy that you know about, is going to fall into the seventh. But most of all, it really is connected to marriages and very committed relationships. Of course, there could be a change here. It doesn't mean that there's going to be a breakup. Let me make that clear. It can be about going from one level of a relationship to the next, okay? So that could be a good thing. If you've been single for a while, you might end up meeting someone and it ends up being a fantastic relationship. Okay, but the thing is that you have Chiron moving through there, which has been making your relationships difficult for a while. There's some woundy stuff going on there with Chiron. So there could be a flare-up of some drama or something difficult that really affects your relationship. So be careful with that. Okay, now don't have any kind of extreme reaction to this. Don't jump the gun. Don't do anything silly, okay? Because Aries is impulsive here. Now, what I want you to do if you're having relationship issues is notice the differences between, or notice the similarities of stuff that went on in your childhood and the type of partners that you're attracting, because I guarantee you there's going to be a connection there. So for Scorpio people, the full moon is happening in your sixth house. This can be an ending connected to your daily routines. It could be something as simple as you're going away for a few weeks. Your daily routine is going to be upset for a while. It's also connected to pets. Some Scorpio people might end up with a new pet over this lunation period. It can also be something to do with your health. So you want to make sure that you're getting enough rest, eating correctly, staying out of the rain as much as possible, etc. Do all those normal things that contribute to good health. Get your diet in order, because when you have a full moon in the sixth house, it can cause a little flare up of some health issues. Sagittarius, the full moon is happening in your fifth house. This can be a changing or ending that is connected to your kids. It could be an ending of a romance or the start of a new one. Now, here's the thing, that for the next couple of weeks, there may just be a change in your fifth house, right? So let's say it's also the house of recreational activities, fun, flirting, romance. Now, the three houses connected to relationships are the fifth house, the seventh house, and the eighth house. You need all three of those to have a healthy, successful relationships. Fifth house activities in terms of romance, you need to have that with your partner that you've been married to for 30 years, okay? When we lose the fifth house aspect of relationships is when it ends. right? So you may just have a change in that for a little while. It's not going to be a big deal at all. If you have any kids, there could be the end of a cycle, you know, maybe you start seeing them more, seeing them a bit less, or any other combination. It really depends on your own birth chart. Okay, so for Capricorn people and Capricorn rising, the full moon is happening in your fourth house. That will make a change here in terms of where you're living, your physical location, your home. Okay. Now, as it's a fire sign and Chiron is there, I do want to say make sure that all like your wiring and all of that, don't leave the chip pan on or do anything like that. Now, of course, that is going to be extremely rare for a disaster to happen, but a full moon will make those things more likely to happen. The full moon is in a fire sign. Okay. Now, you could have been thinking about moving for a while. Maybe you get moving. The fourth house is also your family. Okay, so there may be a little bit of drama there with Aries and Chiron, but it's also about things that you have experienced in the past. Now, the past in this lifetime. Okay, so it's going to be a problem that you may have experienced years ago, months ago, maybe even during Mercury retrograde. You're going to see one final flare up of that before finally you can put it to bed to rest and move on with the rest of your life. So for Aquarius people, the full moon is happening in your third house. The third house has got to do with your siblings. It's got to do with your intellect and learning. It is also about driving and any vehicles that you own. Okay, short journeys and just getting out and about in your neighborhood. There will be an ending or a change to do with that. With Aries and Chiron, there could be a bit of a drama to do with the sibling or even your neighbors in your neighborhood, right? So the best thing to do is try and be Saturnian about it instead of overly Mars. So be calm, be focused, look for practical solutions to any issues. So finally, for Pisces people, the full moon is happening in your second house. This is going to be a change to your income. It does not necessarily have to be a bad change at all. You could get a pay rise. You could discover some new ways of making money. There could be a bit of conflict over your money. Maybe you realize that you're worth more and you start to try and get your boss to give you a pay rise. But it will show you where you need to kind of toe the line in terms of your finances, where you need to tighten your belt. You look to Saturn for great organizational skills and you may have to cut back on your luxury goods or anything really that you spend a lot of money on because of the upcoming financial climate, right? So write it all down. Now, this kind of thing is not easy for Pisces people to deal with because they're spiritual, they're dreamy, they're creative. They're not known for being fantastic with money. Of course, some will be if they have a Capricorn or Virgo moon. But if you're one of those that struggles with it, write it down. Everything is so much easier when you look at a piece of paper. Or you could also ask for help. Okay, so maybe you're looking for some kind of experienced person with finances to help you with your financial situation. But like I say, it could also be a good thing for you. So that's pretty much it for this full moon. I hope it's marvelous for you and I hope you have a fantastic time. So remember, if any wounds get triggered, try and be sensible about it and be mature and make good decisions and be gentle with yourself and other people. So that's it for now, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Take care and I'll be back soon.